This is part one of three parts, a pre-meditation talk. And I take a subject, I talk about it in real time for about 20, 25 minutes or so. Then it's going to be time for us to do our meditation. I'll walk you through, it is a semi-guided meditation. And then at the end of the meditation, we will do a um, we'll do a informal talk as long as there's people out here that want to talk. At the end, we'll talk about the things I brought up here in the pre-launch, pre-meditation talk. In terms of the meditation itself, um, it has some steps. There'll be a welcoming, then a centering. We'll do a short meditation where we can center not just on ourselves, but center on each other and all beings. We'll acknowledge our connection to all beings because what we're building is a psychosphere of connection between us and every other living being on this planet that we share with this planet. Um, we'll blend those energies, and then we'll set some declarations about our future. Um, and then we'll do a meditation that will be between 8 and 10 minutes long. And then we will wrap up with our what we call our inclusivity mantra, and we'll get to that when we get to that. Um, and then we'll have our informal discussion. I am about ready to launch us into today's um, subject of our pre-catalyst meditation talk, and it's what I call maintaining self and sanity during this transition to the butterfly. Um, we have these romantic notions of what happens from the caterpillar to the butterfly. Romantic notions born in elementary school for many of us. The fat little caterpillar crawls into the chrysalis, and then out pops this beautiful butterfly and flies away. Oh, that's all great. I don't want to bust your bubble too early, but if you are an adult, you know that the birthing process is messy. It is uncomfortable, it's messy, it's dangerous, and to the being undergoing it, it looks like you're dying. And what I'm trying to do is to get us to the point of recognizing that we're going through transformation, a societal transformation from what we've been. We've acted like a caterpillar on this earth. We've been eating the entire earth. And now it's time for us to stop. And when we stop, at that point of stopping, what we what we'll wind up doing is something different from what human beings have been doing for the longest time. We'll become new humans. And that new humanity is going to have some very interesting aspects to it. I'll talk about a few of those today. But before I do any of that, I want to tell you about a situation that happened back in 2004. This is the what happened to the world in the Indian Ocean tsunami. And I happened to miss that. Many of you know I did extensive work in peace work in Sri Lanka, and I was doing that work during this time. I had my plane ticket in hand. I would have been in Sri Lanka I would have been standing on the beach in the morning when the first wave rolled over 100 feet above where I was what would have been standing. Um, I was here in America, um, having my appendix out. So when my daughters heard that I was having my appendix out, they were all writing, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear about your appendix." And then when they heard about the tsunami, "We're so glad you had your appendix out." So several months later, I got to go to Sri Lanka and see the aftermath of the tsunami. And I want to show you some pictures here. Um, so I had the opportunity to interview this woman, and she was dressed in her best sari because she knew she was meeting me, and she was meeting me to tell me a story. And so I'm in her village, and if you can see my marker, that's me, the tallest person in every village I go to. This is the young woman, and this guy here is my translator. Um, and she's telling me the story about when the first wave occurred. Everything that you see in this picture, including the palm trees, were underwater. The only thing that was sticking above the waterline was the point on the stupa in the middle of the village. And there were people clinging to that point as the wave was sweeping everyone out. And so there are people clinging to the stupa, then there were people clinging to the people clinging to the stupa, then there were people clinging to the people clinging to the stupa. And she said she was on the outer ring, and she saw her mother coming toward her, and she was trying to reach out for her mother, and missed her by about 3 or 4 feet. And the last time she saw her mother was her mother managed to turn around, and they were looking at each other as her mother got swept out to sea, and she never saw her again. Now, I'm telling you this story for a reason. Um, I, if I could have gone to her 2 weeks earlier and said, something catastrophic is going to happen to your village. You need to carry a rope with you. And when when the ocean, which is half a kilometer that way, okay, um, comes up and engulfs your entire village, you'll be able to throw a rope to your mother. What would she have done? Well, I know what she would have done. She would have ignored me. What a fantastical story. I've never heard of the ocean coming up and engulfing an entire village. I don't know what you're talking about. That is what most of us are doing right now. What most of us are doing now is, um, in the face of everything that I have been saying and many others have been saying for the past 30 years, I've never seen anything like this happen before. I don't know what you're talking about here. I don't see anybody else from my village reacting. Nobody's paying any attention to you. I'm going to ignore you too. So that is a very normal human expression. We're going to go back to what we are used to. We're going to go back to the things that are comfortable for us and comforting for us. And we're going to ignore the people saying, you got to do things differently. And and we'll do that to our peril. Now, those of you who know me know I am not a gloom and doom guy. Yes, we got some really tough times ahead of us, and we can choose to see those times as very exhilarating. Let's get to this. Um, my thumb blurred out there. Let me get a good clear thumb here. Okay. So, so our challenge is, how do we make the best of the times that we've got right now? The thing that we have to do is the most important thing for humanity and maybe for life on this planet. We've got to wake up. And our waking up means we've got to we've got to change our perspective. We've got to see how the world works differently. That's been the subject for all of my books for the past 35-ish years. That's been the subject of all of my teachings. That's been what I've been doing for all this time to amazingly small audiences, considering the importance of the subject. But that's about to change. I'd hope that there would have been more of us involved in the change as it's changing. But we're at the point right now. We can see the elements of the wave coming. We're misinterpreting it. We're saying, oh, that's not a wave, that's a cloud. There can't be waves that big. Once we let go of that notion, once we let go of the notion that things are going to be operating the way they've always operated, we can start seeing a bigger picture. We can start seeing a different picture, and we can start responding accordingly. So the first thing we have to do is listen. And I don't mean listen so that you can get ammunition to refute the other side that's saying whatever. Not listening to try to figure out how you are going to seek a personal advantage in whatever trying times we have, but listening from a point of we, listening from the point of how all of us together can resolve our challenge. I'm struck by how ants survive a flood. When there's a flood in a local area, all of the ants join together into a ball. They make a ball. And this is a very specific ball. On the inside of the ball are the queen and the eggs, because that's their future. Without the queen, without the eggs, you don't have a colony anymore. Around the queen and the eggs are the soldiers. Around the soldiers are all of the other ants inside the colony. Because ants are tiny, they float. And as they're floating, this ball will roll with the waves, roll with what's pushing them around with the water. When they rest, they will make a find something appropriate for a new home. The interesting thing about this is that the ants on the bottom of that ball will die. They will drown. But before they drown, they link their arms and their legs and their antennas together so that even in their death, they provide buoyancy for the rest of the ants for them to form this colony. Now, we should be thinking the same way. We should be thinking, how can I be of maximum benefit to my community? How can I be of maximum benefit to our our larger sense of self and not my skin encapsulated ego? And as people are coming in, my screen is changing here. So I'm going to change our screen so that that's not so distracting, or unless you find me distracting, in which case maybe you're in trouble. So, and for those of you who don't know me, I tell a lot of jokes, so bear with me. No one's gotten it out of me in the several decades that I've been around here. Okay, so listening is going to be a major skill for us. Responding appropriately will be a major skill for us. And that's something that we have to learn how to do. Responding appropriately is not responding for my individual self-preservation. It's responding for the preservation of our entire society. So responding appropriately, responding as a group being, as a representative of humanity, not it's just me and everybody else can go to hell. Learning and learning together how to get through whatever these times are, whatever the times will throw at us, whatever the times will throw at us. There are people right now trying to predict, well, if this happens, then we'll do that. If that happens, we'll do this. What happens when none of the things that occur in your life are predicted? What happens when you're in a village that has existed for over 10,000 years? And in those 10,000 years, the ocean, which has always been over there, is now over here. What do? Well, you need a new set of instructions. This is something that my friend Larry Dossey called having a high boggle threshold. And what a high boggle threshold means is that your mind doesn't get boggled by stuff like that. It's like, oh, well, the ocean just moved, but so now what do I do? For many of us in the world, and many of us in this society, what you do is go catatonic and you suck your thumb and call for mommy or call for the government. Either one, neither one is going to come to you, and wait for the end. And that's not what we're supposed to be doing. So we're supposed to be listening. We're supposed to be learning. We're supposed to be responding appropriately and responding as a group being. And we're supposed to be envisioning. We don't have to wait for things to get bad for us to see the benefit in the times we're going through right now. Almost all of the things that I did a series of videos, and if you go to my YouTube channel and you start looking through, if you sign up for the YouTube channel, and you go through the list of videos, you'll see something I did a couple of years ago. I called The Wave. And what The Wave was about was looking at some of the things that could happen to us and how do we get past our illusory reliance on the government and start thinking for ourselves and thinking with each other, thinking with the people that you don't normally think about when you start thinking about people, and start looking at envisioning new ways for us to connect. Um, all of this means us having and creating a new self, a self that goes beyond the individual into a new form of consciousness. I write about the new consciousness in my latest book, which is only a couple of years old. It's not in birthing the. I'm experimenting with this thing of the blurred background, and so far the experiment is not working that well. um, but birthing the nation of Gaia, and um, how do we birth a new nation on the planet? A nation that is not based on geography. The entire planet is our nation, not based on exclusivity. Every human being and every living being is part of that nation. It's not based on money. Um, there are so many beings on the planet, including at least 1 billion human beings, that don't use money. Like it's we know how to live without it. Um, and it's based on the highest visions that we hold for our world and our planet. Um, and I have a I'm keeping an eye on my time, because for those who didn't want to do the pre-meditation talk, they'll be coming in about 5 minutes, and I have a little table here. And I want to talk about what's in that table. So we are changing from, those of us who will make it are changing from the place we've been to where we're going. And the place we've been is basically relying on the status quo, basically relying on a concept that we call normal. And if normal isn't here, we're just going to sit and twiddle our thumbs and wait for normal to show up. We're going to rely on government. If an emergency comes, the government will tell us what to do. The government will tell us where to go. The government will supply the emergency supplies. We will just sit here and rely on government. I'm hoping you can see from the events of the last, let's say, year or so, that those are not strategies that will get us anywhere. Instead of relying on the status quo, we have to learn how to become flexible and adaptable. We've got to learn how to see things a different way. Instead of waiting for normal to return, we should be looking for advantages in the situation we've got, or create a whole new situation based on the circumstances that are being presented to you. Instead of relying on government, you should be relying on your community. And by your community, I mean those folks who don't act like you do. The folks who don't act like the norm that you are used to. Um, um, uh, I've got lots and lots of examples, and I don't have time to give them to you, of situations where people who I had no expectation coming through for me, came through big time. Um, and I got a chance to say a very big time thank you to people that I'd never thought I'd be saying thank you to. And that's how this is all going to work. We will be seeking and relying on what I call unlikely allies and unlikely supporters. For those of us who have spent so much of our time separating ourselves from the other, talking bad about the other, um, eliminating the other from our lives, it's time for us to do things differently. It's time for us to start seeing things differently. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another of our weekly Catalyst Meditations. Welcome to those who are joining us today, especially those who have returned. Um, Welcome to those who are following us on the outline that I am reading from. Welcome to those who've been with us in the past, either on the daily or the weekly Catalyst Meditation, but can't be with us today. We're going to do what we normally do at this time, which is get ourselves centered um, in the room and centered with each other. That centering involves me having to make a shift to our audio. That centering involves us being following a breathing app where we breathe in together and we breathe out together. And we do that for about 3 minutes. And then we're going to spend another 3 minutes in um, uh, silent centering with each other, with all other beings, etc. And we're going to start that right now. So I'm going to start the breathing app right now. And I'm going to invite you all to breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, If we can continue our centering silently for a few more minutes. If we can come back to our common center, we'll continue our catalyst meditation with our intentions. As the imaginal cells within the chrysalis come together to form the butterfly out of the disintegrated caterpillar cells, we come together to form a gateway for the meta consciousness of the mind of Gaia. We act for ourselves personally, and we act as aspects of Gaia. Holonic consciousness is a fundamental aspect of the universe. Every atom in the universe holds consciousness. It is always with us. We're acknowledging that now because many humans have forgotten and many humans have been in denial. We act to reawaken our connection to Gaia for the benefit of all living beings. And we acknowledge our connection to all beings. This includes all humans, including those who have gone before and those who are to come. All beings who thrive on and in the air. All beings who thrive on and in the water. All beings who thrive on and in the earth. All beings who thrive on and in our bodies. all beings that thrive on light, the beings of the plant realms, all meta beings, beings that are made up of individual beings. We include the earth as a living meta being, air as a living meta being, fire as a living meta being, water as a living meta being. We include and acknowledge all colony beings, beings that are collections of solo beings. And this includes murmurations, colonies, schools, hives, pods, flocks, herds, migrations, swarms, and other meta beings, and all other forms of consciousness, known and unknown to us. Now that we've called these beings, we want to blend our energies. May all who are part of Mother Earth be connected to and in perfect health, harmony, and balance with each other and with Mother Earth for the common good. We are in perfect physical health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect emotional health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect relational health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect mental health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect spiritual health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect holonic health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect spatial and temporal health, harmony, and balance. We are in the perfect place, at the perfect time, in the perfect conditions, and with the perfect beings. We now set our declarations. We declare that Gaia, Mother Earth, is the ultimate governing principle, the way that humans govern their behavior on this planet, replacing all other forms of human governance. This is the way our behavior aligns with the will of the Earth. We declare that humans are colony beings. We deepen and expand our human murmurations. We declare that Gaia is providing all necessary resources to achieve the vision of a world that works for all living beings. We declare that we are creating a political and economic system where all beings participate in it, all beings are in relationship with it, all beings own it, all beings benefit from it, and all beings govern it for the common good. So we'll now meditate within this Pholonic energy, within the energy of Mother Earth. We'll be meditating and listening for any messages that we may receive. We'll be making any personal requests that we may have. We'll be deepening and expanding our human experience of our human murmurations. And we'll be doing so for about 8 to 10 minutes, starting now. And if we can come back to our common center, we will conclude our catalyst meditation with our inclusivity mantra. You can choose to recite after me, or you can choose to listen in silence. Um, May I be well. May I be secure. May I be happy. May you be well. May you be secure. May you be happy. May we be well. May we be secure. May we be happy. And may all beings be well. May all beings be secure. May all beings be happy. And so it is, and so it shall be. I thank you for joining me with this weekly meditation. We'll be doing this at least for another few weeks to come. I'm seeing Janet has just unmuted herself and she's got a digital finger pointing. So she's at the top of her heap right now. So what's up?
Oh, good morning, everybody. So good to be here. I just wanted to share a memory that came up during our meditation. It was a visual and feeling memory of the night of the 4th of July in Boston after the fireworks. And this mob of people is ready to go home. And at the T station, the transit station, all the gates are open up. Nobody pays. Everybody just fills up the cars. The cars are jam-packed. Everybody's jostling each other. Everybody's laughing. There's just such a feeling of elation. And and I just stayed in that feeling during the meditation.
Excellent. I now have a new uh, example to talk to people about what holonic consciousness feels like. Um, we don't recognize it. We don't see it as something that exists. There's no studies on it yet. There'll be whole universities dedicated to it if we still have things called universities. But this notion of um, you could call it oneness, you could call it love, you could call it lots of different things. And sometimes it happens in the most ordinary moments. Um, I have two examples of that. And I've got 20 or 30. I'm going to only give you two. Um, okay, and see you, Liana. Some of us have to go to work. And um, one of them was I was in Chicago doing for some conference or another, and I was um, it's cold, rainy day. You know, you don't. It's an evening. You don't want to be outside, etc. But there was this crowd around the window of a pizza parlor. And so we're standing in this kind of drizzly rain. I want to see what's going on. And there's a guy in the window, and he was tossing a pizza. And he had this expression on his face of absolute. I have a new book I'm working on called Ordinary Ecstasy. He had this ecstatic look on his face, but this was a look of ordinary ecstasy. He was just throwing a pizza, and he would throw it and then he would catch it, and he would throw it and he would catch it. And he wasn't looking. He wasn't looking at how he was throwing. It just every movement he made was perfect. And the 20 or 30 people outside that window were standing in the rain in order to see this happening. And we were reinforcing him. We were reinforcing each other. He was reinforcing us. And it was an absolutely timeless moment. And again, I can still feel the rain going back down the back of my neck. Like, why are we out here? And then another part of me saying, you know exactly why you're out here. This is how you get fed. Um, okay, so fast backwards to when I was living in North Carolina, and the Mint Museum would have would show movies on its very huge lawn and old movies. And so we're sitting out there. I'm sitting with a group of maybe 2 or 3 thousand people in lawn chairs watching these movies. So they did a cartoon, and then they had to change the reels back in the days when they had reels. They're changing the reels so the screen goes dark. And right when they're in the middle of changing the reels, this huge meteor streaks through the sky. And all 3,000 of us at the same time went, ooh. Now, the meteor was beautiful, but what we did was more beautiful. It was a perfect note. It was, 3,000 people. It's almost like we rehearsed it. And right after that, it went absolutely silent, or everybody just said, what did we just do? Well, it's like, and then people was like some people were like nervously laughing, and some people were applauding, and but to this day, people talk about whether or not you were on the lawn at the Mint Museum when the meteor went over. And if the answer is yes, you don't have to say anymore because you know what it did to your heart. My question, no, this is more than a question. My intention and my vision is that we live in that space 24/7. We don't have to wait for the 4th of July. We don't have to wait for a meteor to strike overhead. We can be in that space. We can make decisions from that space. We can connect with all other beings in that space. Now, let's just make it happen. Okay. Um, and Mark just said bye. I've got my glasses on so I can actually see what's in the comment section. There are other folks who are running now. But I also see that Angie has her digital hand patiently up, and it looks like the patient digital hand, yeah. And so what's happening? Make sure you unmute yourself.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to share that the energy today was very strong for me, and I experienced it physically, but it was also, I could just really feel that there were more of us here today. And I had the most interesting experience of, kind of being in my chair, but at the same time, I felt like we were all inside this kind of gently circling, kind of like tornado, sort of, like we were just sort of all floating in this same little circling gentle cloud, and even though I don't know most everybody that was here, we were all just kind of going around. It was like a little circling happy cloud, And at some point, I was being shown the pond hydraulics. The beavers were showing me how their pond worked. It was something like that, sort of some little wandering mental things, but it was just so pleasant being in this this circular motion. I could feel all of us were in there, like a slow motion tornado, sort of. Only things weren't being thrown out. We were just all in there together. So that was pretty cool. So
Very cool. Yeah. I am I can't find it. I'm not going to look for it right now. So, but I have been talking about human murmurations, human activities that connect us, but we're not even aware of it. Um, so the 4th of July is big deal. Meteors streaking overhead, big deal. But every day, down about 1,000 feet away from me, is the Lloyd Center, and there's a skating rink in there. And I go there several days a week just to watch the skaters circling counterclockwise. There's no one down there making them circle counterclockwise. Nothing. Um, they have different levels of skating ability. You have people literally hanging onto the railing for dear life. And then you have other folks doing jumps and swirls and things like that. When the murmuration is there, when the energy is there, they never, ever, ever run into each other. They don't run into each other because they are one. If you, I've seen two skaters skating backwards. They can't see each other. And at last minute before they collide, they both swoop into this beautiful formation, like as though they were planning it, and they don't even know each other, and they don't know that each other is doing this. Um, we can be there. So every time I say that, we can be there all the time. It's going into your cognitive side. And then when you find yourself murmurating with others, it then goes into your heart side, and there's more likely for that to happen. And that's going to start happening faster and faster. So, Eric, I see a digital hand.
Thank you, Sharif. I'm humbled to be a part of this process and wanted to extend my grace to everyone on these calls. Um, when you were doing that meditation and speaking about birds and flocks, and you're talking about ice skating and the coordination it takes for all those individuals to go around the rink, I witnessed something down in our state in Oregon. Um, a group of geese that took off because maybe there's a potential raptor in the area that maybe startled them, but they took off and it was a huge flock, and the coordination of each individual bird, geese, and they were all flying in unison. It was the most beautiful, humbling, graceful witness, I guess, that you talk about, that holonic consciousness, and they were holding each other at a perfect distance. And it was just one of the most humbling things that I'd ever witnessed. And I just wanted to share that with us today. It was something that I will always reflect on when I say, hear your talks and hear you speak. But it gives me something to give us all hope. I would like to think so. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. And this notion of the what is happening is not happening to Americans. It's not happening to humans. It's happening to the entire earth. Now, the only question is, are we going to be joining with the earth for this to happen? We do have a special role to play. And one of our special roles as human beings on the planet is helping to be Gaia's prefrontal lobe. The thing that humans do, and the thing that we do really, really well once in a while, is notice. Notice and acknowledge and praise. Um, what humans pay attention to gets stronger and stronger and stronger. We know it. We've been talking about the law of attraction for us several decades now, and we don't believe it. We act like we can pay attention to any old thing, and that thing, we can pay attention to things we oppose, and then get surprised that the thing that we oppose gets stronger. And I said this, I'm glad I said it on video several times before Trump won the first time. I kept saying, this guy can win, number one. And everybody, oh, there's no way in God's green earth could he ever win, etc. And I said, number one, he can win. Number two, he can win because you talk about him all the time. So you kept on talking about him, and he won. And then you kept talking about him. And then he won again. And I've been saying since the last election, you're still talking about him. I said, he'll win again. They said, well, he can't run a third time. I said, watch what happens. Tell me about how the law of attraction makes something impossible. Okay? Of course he can win again. If you try to discipline yourself and decide to focus not on what you don't want, but start to actually focus on what you do, you'll start seeing a different world at a different way in a different time. This happened last night. Okay, so my my foray into the ordinary world is I go to the gym across the street, and I exercise, and my treat for myself when I go to exercise is I get in the hot tub, the sauna, which comfortably holds about a dozen people, and I listen. Sometimes I'm the one talking, but last night I was listening, and we had about 9 people in there, about 3 different conversations, and I'm listening to them talking to each other, and it was all about politics. And um, at one point in time, um, someone said, we've got to make the Democrats have a vision. We should be protesting to make them have a vision. And I said, I was saying to myself, you have no idea how this works. You know, um, the we have been spending the last 20 or 30 years politically trying to make other people act. It's time for us to act. It's time for me to act. It's time for me to hold the vision. And this is a responsibility I took on myself. And this is why every day I wear my button, and my button says, let's see if I can get it up there. My button says Blur, creating a world that works for all. Name of my first major book. Um, um, a I a well, a book I think that everybody should read. And I'm trying to get my ego out of the way in terms of that. If somebody else wrote it, I would be able to praise it more diffusely. Um, but when you ask people for their vision, they don't have anything to share with you. They will spout whatever the latest broadcast or their latest politician who wrote a speech about something or another, but they don't hold a vision. That has to change. And when I do my workshops, I say, okay, my vision is creating a world that works for all, and you can use mine until you come up with your own. But it's something that has to fit all of the beings of the world, not just you in your little group or your little enclave or the corner of humanity that you've cut off for yourself. Other questions or comments, and one of the things I have to discipline myself with is to I've been practicing, so it works most of the time, practicing setting a timer and only talking for 4 minutes in response to a question. I tell everyone else, if you're talking about more, if you say something for more than 4 minutes, you probably don't know what you're talking about. And I'm going to do something right now since I don't see any hands up. I'm putting a donation button into the chat. And what I want to do is invite you to donate to Commonwealth. You participated in this and you didn't have to pay for it. And this video has to be processed and has to be made available to the folks who are coming in at 2 o'clock and the folks who come in at 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. And all that happens in the background. And all that happens despite the fact that I don't have a paywall up where you can't get to any of this stuff unless you pay for it. I don't have a regular foundation dumping money into Commonwealth. This is, on the one hand, a labor of love. On the other hand, it's a labor of necessity. This has to happen. This is my part of what has to happen. So if you feel moved, and if the button actually works, please use it. You can plan on using it regularly. You can make a one-time. There's nothing saying you got to do it one way or another. If you don't want to do that, see what else I can come up with real quick. If you don't want to do that, you can buy some books. I'm putting all of my digital information into the chat box. And you now, if I do this right, you now have it. Okay. So if you've never seen my TED Talk, you should see the TED Talk. If you own some of the Commonwealth books and don't own others, you should try buying some of those and buying them from Commonwealth. I know most of us are on Amazon and if you're a Prime member, you get free shipping. I'm going to negate that Amazon advantage for right now. For now and for the next 2 days, if you buy any of the books, I'm going to give you free shipping. So this is the time to load up, and I'm actually making a note that I actually said that. And what will happen is you'll buy the book or books, and it'll charge you for shipping. I will then reimburse that in within 24 hours. And um, you can support Commonwealth that way and support yourself. And even if you buy 2 copies of the books and save one and give one to a loved one, Because if you love them, you want them to get this stuff. I'll tell you a quick story, and then I'm not seeing any other questions. I see no other hands up, so I'm assuming that we are going to be done here in a minute. So this happened some years ago. Um, I was doing some back-to-back lectures in a town, and one of they did a lecture at the high school, at the local high school, and then I did a lecture for a business organization. And at the high school, I was selling books, and a young student comes up and he says, "I want to buy two books, two copies of your book." And he said, "One of these is for for me to read, but the other one is for my dad because he likes all this kind of stuff." And I'm like, "Cool." So I signed a book for him, signed a book for his dad. And the next day, I was talking to the business group, and one of the people came up and said, "Well, I want to buy two books because I want to buy one for my son. Because I want to read this, but he likes all this kind of stuff." So I said, "Okay." So I signed two books, and both of them wrote me saying that they had bought books for each other. And that means that they were on the same wavelength. And that is a real blessing. And we need to strengthen people who are on that wavelength. Okay, of the 9 people I see still on the line, I'm not seeing any microphones. I'm not seeing any hands up. That makes me assume that we're done for the day. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us. Please spread the word. Liza is telling me the Commonwealth links are not working. It just worked for me. Anybody else having a problem?
Well, about half worked and half didn't.
Okay. Let me get a book link here.
The donation link works.
Oh, work it out. Excellent. I see what you mean. The Commonwealth links are just swirling. Give me a minute to fix it. I will I'll work on that. I'll try to get them to work. The links that are good, but for some reason they're not working. Try again later. Yes, definitely do that. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us. Thank you for spreading the word. We want to see 20, 30, 40 people at the next weekly meditation. You have the link for it right now. You don't need it to come, need it again. And I will look forward to some of you joining us for our daily meditations. You can just let me know if you want to do that. And one way or another, upward and outward, off we go. Look forward to our continuing process here. I'm seeing a couple of people saying, "Send me the link for the daily meditation." I will do so. Ann Friedman has a Rutgers Camden EDU address. We need to talk about that. I am a refugee from Camden right now. And we'll definitely have a lot to talk about. Um, I was one of the people as a high school student who participated in the overthrow of Camden, of Rutgers in Camden, very proudly.
Yes,
Um,
I know.
yeah, and I will see all of us hopefully next week and maybe even on the daily. So I will talk to you at another point in time. Talk to you later. Bye.